video, and it looked like Alyssa Thomas will be getting fined for doing this.
You cannot be there chirping with fans the whole game. You cannot be allegedly telling fans Duana chose to join a rub-out.
We all expected this. I even called it out before the game in my live. But somehow, booing Duana Bonner has been—
Oh, that's the dagger. Because you nailed it. This is exactly the kind of moment that exposes the gap between image and integrity. You can puff your chest out, bark at the fans, posture like the enforcer of the night, but when the cameras flip on and the questions come, that's when real leaders show up. And instead of standing on what she said and did, she bolted. That's not veteran leadership, that's performance art with no encore. Fans see it. Media sees it. Teammates definitely see it. You don't get to talk tough for 40 minutes and then go mute when it's time for accountability. That's not strength, that's selective courage and the hypocrisy. Brutal. This is the same player who's been loud in calling others out, wagging fingers about professionalism and respect for the game. But when it's her turn under the spotlight, suddenly the mic is too heavy. Suddenly the schedule's too tight. Suddenly silence is the only strategy. The truth is, you can't lead from the shadows. You can't build credibility by ducking the very conversations you ignite. And if this is the example a veteran is setting, no wonder fans are booing and the league looks like a soap opera instead of a sport. Would you like me to punch this up even more, like a scorched earth column that really drives home the cowardice angle?
So Alyssa Thomas had all the smoke for the Fever fans. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, it wasn't just like, just normal smoke. It wasn't just normal beef. It was what people from the country will call Dublin. She had the big smoke. Like, she absolutely had all the beef for, she, let the fans hear it, all of this stuff. Satu there, telling the fans to keep up the booze. And what did they do? They lost. And what did Alyssa do?
This is the story of a player who mistook volume for leadership. Who thought she could bark at fans, flex her veteran badge, and act like intimidation was the same as influence. She talked all the trash in the world, puffed her chest, and stormed around the court like she owned it. But then came the real test, not the booze, not the bumping, not the scoreboard. The real test was accountability. And when the cameras flipped on and the questions sharpened, she vanished. Because that's the truth no one wants to say out loud. It's easy to perform toughness for 40 minutes, but professionalism isn't about theatrics. It's about owning your actions when the spotlight shifts. And when that moment came, the leader, who never ran from trash talk, ran as fast as she could from responsibility. That's not leadership. That's not professionalism. That's theater with no curtain call. And fans aren't stupid. They know the difference.
A celebration right now in the WNBA dump, but for some reason, and this should come as a surprise to no one, for some reason, WNBA players, they're just not in a joyous mood. They're not in the mood to express their appreciation, their gratitude to the people who gave them something worth celebrating. Instead of showing their appreciation, these bitter, entitled, insufferable players, they continue to engage in a war with their—
When Alyssa Thomas and the Phoenix Mercury rolled into Indianapolis on that heated Wednesday night, she thought she was walking into enemy territory ready to play the villain. She wanted the booze, the jeers, the chaos, because for her, noise is fuel. But what she didn't calculate was that Indiana fans weren't just heckling for sport. They were holding receipts. They had every right to unleash their displeasure with Dana Bonner, and they weren't going to be silenced just because a visiting star decided she wanted to run the show, and when the league made it clear her tantrum wouldn't be excused, that crossing the line meant answering for it, suddenly the villain act crumbled. The same player who thrives on confrontation, who thrives on conflict, folded the second accountability stepped into the arena.
Her first time coming back to Indianapolis after pretty much quitting the team. And I'm sticking to my guns saying that she quit the team because in my eyes, that's definitely what she did. Now, she went on record and stated that the role that she had possibly wasn't good enough for her. The fit just wasn't working. But at the end of the day, all of it points to the arrows of what? quitting the basketball team. There's no way to justify it.
She thought she was delivering some mic drop moment, but the only thing real about Alyssa Thomas that night was how fast she vanished when the buzzer sounded. Real leaders face the music. Real professionals own their words. Real competitors don't talk tough to fans all night and then duck the media like a ghost when it's time to explain themselves. The writing was on the wall from the opening tip, but Thomas was too busy running her mouth to read it. She spent 4 quarters trying to play villain, and when it came time to play adult, she disappeared. That's not real. That's embarrassing.
Basically, you can see Alyssa Thomas going back and forth with a fan, man. I mean, she just, I don't know if she just can't ignore anybody that's just coming at her, you know what I'm saying? And I'm pretty sure it's not anything racist or anything like that. I just think they get under her skin. And they just get under her skin. And maybe since her first incident, whatever the case may be, she just didn't like it. So after that, she just can't stand any other female fan.
So what did the WNBA do? Exactly what any competent league should. They fined Thomas and the Mercury for breaking the most basic rule in professional sports. When the game ends, you show up and face the music.
25 WNBA media access policy states no later than 10 minutes following the game, each head coach and 2 players, leading scorer and key contributor per team, will be available in separate press conference room for in-person Zoom meetings. AT and the Mercury will likely be fined because they chose to break the rule. It's looking like Alyssa Thomas and the Phoenix Mercury are going to be fined because she just said nah. She just said nah.
If you're enjoying this, make sure to subscribe. The media availability violation exposed everything Alyssa Thomas isn't. When she had her chance to explain herself, defend her actions, and show leadership after a dominant individual performance, she didn't take it. She bolted. She vanished faster than her team's championship hopes, leaving her coach and teammates to clean up the mess she created. Per league rules, no later than 10 minutes after the final buzzer, each head coach and 2 players, the leading scorer and a key contributor, must be available in separate press rooms for in-person and Zoom media. This isn't a suggestion. It's not optional. And it's definitely not something you get to ignore just because your feelings are hurt.
We seen Alyssa Thomas jawing at it with fans, kind of, making a complete fool of herself, and now she's finna be getting fined because she refused.
Thomas's disappearing act was the perfect contrast to what real professionalism looks like. She spent 4 quarters jawing at fans, mocking them, and even bragging that her partner joined a real basketball team. She waved, gestured, and dared them to meet her after the game. But when the real, after-game, responsibilities arrived, she was nowhere to be found. The fans noticed. They embraced her hostility because it proved the point. Thomas couldn't back up her words when it actually mattered. Meanwhile, Coach Nate Tibbetts and Kalia Copper walked into the press room and handled their business like professionals. Their supposed leader. She stayed tucked in the locker room, acting like a kid who broke something and hoped nobody noticed.
It's a game of sport where 2 teams are going against each other, right? 2 rivals, 2 fan bases, right, are going against each other. You are allowed to be talked about, all right? You are allowed to be talked about as long as they are keeping it within the game and, not really attacking anything personal or talking about family members or, you know what crosses the line, right? Y'all know it.
Let's be absolutely clear about what happened in Indianapolis, and why the booing wasn't just justified. It was inevitable that in February, DeWanna Bonner signed with the Indiana Fever to big fanfare. She was billed as the veteran leader who would steady the ship, guide Caitlin Clark, and help a young roster grow into contenders. Instead, she gave them 9 games. 9. That's not even a quarter of the season, and those 9 games weren't just short, they were abysmal. Bonner put up career lows across the board: 7.1 points, 3.8 rebounds, bad shooting, and 0 impact on team chemistry. Indiana bent over backwards trying to make it work. They gave her time off. They explored trades. They tried everything. But Bonner had already checked out. The truth is, nobody wanted her contract. At nearly $200,000 in a hardcap league, she wasn't worth the headache. So Bonner did what she's been doing for the last year, she forced the issue. Indiana's hand was tied, and she got her release.
After 3 games in a starting role, Bonner was moved to the bench in favor of shooting guard Lexi Hull, and 6 games later, she was done with the Fever. The Fever originally cited personal reasons for her absence, but what I learned later, again from multiple sources, was that the team was actually actively shopping her.
Now here comes Alyssa Thomas, acting like Indiana fans were somehow wrong for booing a player who quit on them after just 9 games. Acting like it's inappropriate for a fan base to express frustration at someone who took their money, wasted their time, and showed zero commitment to their organization. This is exactly where Thomas, and a lot of WNBA players, show how unprepared they are for the attention their league is finally getting. Booing is normal in sports. It's been part of the culture for decades in every major league. When players leave under bad circumstances, underperform, or flat out quit, fans boo. That's not disrespect. That's not hatred. That's sports. Nobody criticized NBA fans for booing Kevin Durant when he returned to Oklahoma City. Nobody scolds NFL fans for booing players who demand trades. Baseball fans ride underperforming stars constantly, and it's accepted as part of the game. But when WNBA players face the same scrutiny, suddenly it's a crisis. Suddenly the fans are crossing the line. Meanwhile, Thomas spent that entire game taunting Fever fans, telling them Bonner went to play for a real team. Real team? The irony is brutal. On the same night she said it, the Fever, without Caitlin Clark, handed Phoenix a 107-101 loss. If the Mercury are such a real team, why couldn't they beat a short-handed Indiana squad on their home floor?
Boo people for less. I boo people for way less. Like if somebody played for my team, my favorite team, and they left after 9 to 10 games, wasn't a good fit. I'm sure she dealt with some shit. I'd feel the type of way her coming back to my house. That's just fandom, okay? So, again, open to constructive feedback. I think that's sports, man. I'm gonna be booing people all the time. I love it. Boo, I love
all that tough talk, after all that gesturing at fans, after spending the entire game acting like she was some kind of enforcer, Thomas got her chance to explain herself and defend her actions. The press conference was set up, the cameras were rolling, the reporters were waiting, and she was nowhere to be found. The league's response was swift and appropriate. According to multiple reports, both Thomas and the Mercury organization are facing fines for violating the media availability rule. This isn't the first time the WNBA has had to discipline players and teams for this exact violation. The New York Liberty got slapped with a $25,000 fine, and 3 of their players were fined $2,000 each for declining media interviews after a finals loss. The precedent is clear. You can't have all the smoke during the game and then hide when it's time to face the consequences. You can't spend 4 quarters talking trash to fans and then refuse to explain your actions to the media. You can't act like a tough enforcer on the court and then disappear like a coward when accountability comes calling.
Now, I believe Angel Reese did this last year too. After the Indiana Fever game, she had refused to talk to the media for whatever reason. But it seemed like this is what they do in this league. Like when things don't go their way, they just refuse to talk to the media, which is so freaking weird to me. So this was released today, and it stated Alyssa Thomas provoked last night that she's the lamest of lames. All that is talking and then ducks the media presser. That's exactly what
makes Thomas's behavior even more embarrassing is how it looks next to players who actually handle the spotlight with professionalism. Caitlin Clark gets fouled hard, knocked down, and targeted every single game, yet she still shows up to every post-game press conference with composure. She answers questions, owns her performance, and never ducks accountability. Even Dana Bonner, who quit on the Fever and gave Indiana 4 miserable points and 1 rebound in 21 minutes, still faced the cameras. Thomas couldn't even do that. And that's the real issue here. This episode highlights just how unprepared many WNBA players are for the level of attention they're finally receiving. For years, they operated in relative obscurity, fielding softball questions from local media happy just to be in the room. But now the league has real fans, real scrutiny, and real stakes, and too many players still don't understand that being a professional athlete means showing up when it's uncomfortable, not just when it's convenient.
Every time something positive happens to this dump of a league, they spoil the celebration. And the WNBA continues to prove why they are not ready for prime time. Caitlin Clark enters the league, and literally overnight, the WNBA is pushed into the mainstream. When you go from complete anonymity to mainstream exposure and you're not ready, the problems of your league will be exposed and magnified. All of your warts will be uncovered. When you're not used to being recognized, when you're not used to being criticized, and all of a sudden you're dealing with both on a daily basis, that can lead to frustration.
Caitlin Clark enters the league, and overnight the WNBA is shoved into the mainstream. And when you go from near anonymity to national exposure, all the cracks in your foundation get exposed. Every wart, every flaw, every bad habit is magnified under the spotlight. If you're not used to being recognized, if you're not used to being criticized, and suddenly both are hitting you every single day, frustration sets in fast. But here's the reality: booing is part of sports. Fan criticism is part of sports. Media accountability is part of sports. If you can't handle fans booing a player who quit on their team after 9 games, you're not ready for the big leagues. If you can't handle a reporter asking about your on-court behavior and your interactions with fans, you're not ready for professional athletics. Indiana Fever fans did nothing wrong. They paid their money, supported their team, and expressed their disappointment when a veteran leader took their investment and bailed after 9 games. That's not racism. That's not crossing the line. That's just being a fan. And then, when Alyssa Thomas had the perfect opportunity to explain herself, to show leadership, to own her words, she ran and hid. The FINED Thomas and the Mercury are now facing is instant karma. You can't spend 40 minutes jawing at fans, acting tough, and threatening people from the court, only to vanish when it's time to face questions. You can't demand respect as a professional athlete while ducking the most basic responsibilities that come with the job.
Like the booing and everything, Duana brought that in herself. Let's be completely real. Even Nate Tibbetts was just like, well, yeah. Their coach was even like, well, yeah, this is sports. This is sports. And
this situation highlights a bigger problem with how WNBA players handle criticism. They want the perks of mainstream attention, bigger salaries, more coverage, growing fan bases, but not the scrutiny that comes with it. They want fans to pay, show up, and cheer, but only if the support is unconditional. The reality is simple: the WNBA finally has the spotlight it's been asking for, and with it comes accountability. Fans invest emotionally and financially, which means they'll voice disappointment when players quit on teams or act unprofessionally. That's not hate, it's sports. Players like Alyssa Thomas can either adapt, accept the responsibility, and act like true pros, or keep embarrassing themselves and the league with tantrums and disappearing acts.
There is no denying the fact. WNBA players are frustrated. Hell, this league has been filled with whiners and complainers for the last 30 years. For 28 of those years, no one was paying attention. Now, the bitterness has been magnified. They're complaining about their minimum wage salaries. They're complaining about the media coverage. They're complaining about criticism. Instead of venting about these complaints privately, WNBA players, they choose to do it publicly. And who is the #1 target of their frustration?
The choice is theirs, but the consequences are clear. The WNBA has made it clear it will fine players and teams who ignore basic professional standards. Fans have shown they'll hold players accountable for effort and loyalty. And the media has proven it won't shy away from asking the tough questions that come with real coverage. Alyssa Thomas thought she could dish out all the smoke without taking any of the fire. She was wrong, and now she's paying the price. That's not injustice. That's not unfair. That's instant karma. Being a professional athlete means showing up, even when it's uncomfortable, even when the cameras are rolling. The WNBA wanted mainstream attention. Now it's here. Welcome to the big leagues, where accountability isn't optional, and hiding is no longer an option.